gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and foes, my people, I'm back. Yeah, today, a very special tying video for you, finally. And today we're tying what I initially called the Triple Treat version 3, because it's a remake of one of my absolute most successful pattern, the Triple Treat. And for those of you who have followed me for a long time, you will remember that I actually put out a few tying videos before I had the 700 Teef channel on my kind of private YouTube thing. And one of the flies that I tied there was the Triple Treat. The Triple Treat was a fly that was developed after I started working with foxy tails in the UK, and they have this very special material called naiad. You've seen me tie with it before, and the Triple Treat fly was a fly that I tied in 3 different sections, hence the word triple, of bucktail with naiad over it, and it was one of my most successful patterns for quite a few years actually. I've since that first video came out, I redeveloped it slightly, removing one of the sections of naiad and tied it much more sparse than I did the original pattern. But for the last like 2 years or something, there's been a lot of people asking me if you can tie that fly with other materials than naiad. And I love naiad. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's one of my favorite materials, but it's quite unique, and you can't really get it in your ordinary fly shop. So I've experimented this winter and this spring, and I finally came up with a new pattern that is built in the same way as the Triple Treat was. So what I did was that I spent quite some time looking for a substitute for the naiad, and eventually I started to tie the fly with Steve Farrar blend instead, and as messy as it looks, it's quite curly. Every strand of the SF blend is curly, so it looks like it's going to tangle itself up, but it doesn't. Once it hits the water, it kind of flows out into a really nice profile, and the movement is very smooth. And in that sense, it's quite alike the naiad and the movement, because naiad is much stiffer than, for example, Icelandic sheep or even craft fur. So the SF blend for me is the perfect substitute, and you can tie it in sizes like this. It won't even really tangle for you, and you have bucktail in there to support things. You have sadle hackle feathers, and you have flash to add both movement and flash in it. So the combination of these materials makes for a rather good fly actually. But what I realized when I was filming this video is that it's so different from the original Triple Treat. There's basically not much left of it, and what's left of it is materials and techniques that aren't really unique to the Triple Treat fly itself. It's more materials and techniques that was brought through many years from the likes like Bob Popovich and Niklas Bauer and Morten Waller, and the way you use bucktail and do hollow flies and stuff like that. So I can't really, even though it's the 3rd installment of the Triple Treat, I can't call this a Triple Treat anymore, because it's so far from the original fly. So I've actually decided to rename it. The Triple Treat will live on in its original form with naiad, but this is no longer the Triple Treat version 3. You shall now be called Teef Grillz. Yeah, corny. But imagine this in the front of, in between some, 700 Teef Grillz. Yeah, it's the Teef Grillz. And it's built up in the same way as a lot of my other articulated flies. I like to use a shank and a hook. You've seen me do this before, and there are of course possibilities to tie this on 2 hooks, doing a more of a classic articulation, big hook in front, small hook in the back, wire and beads in between, more I would say probably more American style. So I'm tying it on a 35mm shank on the 4.0 Partridge attitude streamer hook. And it's the same build-up as in many of my other flies, in the fact that it's a bulkier head and a more sparse tail section, in which when you retrieve it, you're gonna get this articulation effect like that. That's the aim. That's why we tie the head rather bulky. And you can fish this almost any way you want to fish it. Fast, slow. You can fish it on a really fast sinking line. You can fish it on an intermediate line. You can put a cone in front on the leader. Whatever you need. This is a pattern that is very adjustable. You can adjust the colors that you're looking for to imitate like a roach or a perch, or just be more like attraction colors, like a fire tiger and something like that. So I think enough rambling for me now. Time for my performance. What does the fox say? No, not that performance. Time to start tying this fly. Okay? Go. So let's get to it, shall we? I've added this overlay thing here to really annoy the crap out of you, so I can just shamelessly promote myself and the 700 Teef swag. Start a fly like you would any other fly by attaching the hook into your fly tying vise, adding some super glue to the shank of the hook and tying your thread. This fly is built up through 3 sections that include different materials, as you will see, the SF blend is used in all 3 sections. I've put cable straps at the end of my SF blend bundles. I think it helps not wasting as much as you would otherwise, because it's quite messy. Cut a small amount of the SF blend in the color of seaweed and taper the ends slightly. Then attach it with roughly a 60-40% spread to the hook, with the longer part at the back. You can keep most of the material on top of the hook like this. As for the tail, I'm also using a few saddle hackle feathers in the color of grey. The original motor oil fly, which will feature in another video later, is based on a grey and olivish color combo, with orange, and that's what we're aiming for here as well. The SF blend will be used for main profile and color of the fly. The saddle hackle and flash will be used on top of this for the fluttering swimming movement. We're gonna tie the grey feathers in around the hook shank with one on top and one on each side. Then move the tying thread forward to a place somewhere around a centimeter or so from the hook eye. This will leave a lot of space between the tail and the middle section. This will only support movement in the fly and will give that nice slight translucency effect in the fly. At this point I'm adding a section of bucktail that will support the next section of materials. Cut a bunch of hair from the bottom section of the bucktail and remove any shorter hairs by holding it in the tip like this. I'm always going on about tying the fly sparse, and this is no exception. Use less bucktail than you would think necessary. The aim is for it to support the small amount of SF blend and flash that we're going to add on top of it, and nothing more. Also, tie this bucktail in here with the tips facing backwards to achieve a lesser angle to the color, like you've seen me do on previous patterns. Now spin the hair around the hook and tighten the bucktail down, and make sure it's spread around the hook nicely before you secure it with several hard turns of thread. before you cut off the excess bucktail here. Add a drop of super glue to the tying thread directly and force it into the tying point of the bucktail, just to secure it all. Now use slightly more SF blend than you did for the tail, but not too much. The goal is to have a slight see-through effect with the bucktail and let the SF blend and the bucktail blend with each other. So taper the ends and spread it around the hook in front of the bucktail all around. You will see that the bucktail is quite visible through the SF blend here, but then as you fold the rest of the material back, it's just barely visible. Now comb everything through and check that it's evenly spread around the fly. Now we're gonna add more saddle hackle feathers to support that grey and olive blend. So for this I'm using 3 olive grizzly feathers and 3 grey ones. The olive ones I'm tying in with 1 on top and 1 on each side. Measure them against each other so that they are slightly longer than the SF blend, but slightly different length on each one to get a nice tapering effect. The grey ones I'm also tying in on the sides, but just below the olive feathers. And lastly, place the final grey one on the underside of the hook. Now cut off all the feather waste and secure with super glue. Now we have ourselves a nice back section. Now just one thing left to do here, we're going to add a few strands of flash on top of this. To start with, I'm using the Magnum Olive Holographic Olive Flash from Hedron. I like to cut them in half to get the correct length to it, then taper the ends and tie it down so they are about the same length as the feathers that you tied in previously. Tie it down on top and slightly down to the sides of the fly. And then just fold back the short ends of flash and tie it down. For the underside, I'm using the Bauer pike flash in the color of orange. Only 4 to 5 strands of flash, and this I'm tying down directly to the underside of the fly. Secure it with 4 to 5 turns of tying thread and then just fold back the rest, and make sure you keep it on the underside. Now it starts to look quite nice, doesn't it? And just add some super glue and finish this section off here and go get yourself a cup of coffee. And we're back again. Now remove the hook section of the fly from the tying vise and put a 35mm articulated shank into the hook eye. Wait a minute. Who gave El President a chewing gum? Oh god, this is going to look ridiculous when I speed it up, won't it? Oh well, we'll have to live with it, I guess. Attach the shank to the vise like this and add super glue to it before closing it up with the tying thread, and then stop a few millimeters from that double point. Use a second bunch of grey bucktail here that's going to be tied in reverse to achieve a greater angle than we had on the back section. Tie it in and make sure you spread it around the hook evenly before tightening it down with several hard turns of thread. And cut off the waist of the bucktail before securing that tying point with super glue. Move the thread forward through the bucktail and fold the whole bucktail section back and build yourself a nice long tapered cone of thread in front of the bucktail section. Now always make sure you make a long tapering instead of just stacking wraps of thread just right behind the bucktail. I'm adding the last section of SF blend. I've moved the thread forward here a few millimeters from the bucktail to enable more movement in the individual materials. Again, use a 60-40 spread of the SF blend, tie it down around the hook before folding the shorter section back. On top of this, I'm going to add the same flash I did for the back section. Just cut off like 6 to 7 strands of... not the whole bundle. Okay, yeah, that's better. Now tape it up the ends and spread it around the hook shank of the top and sides of the fly. Fold back the shorter ends and secure it with several hard wraps of thread. Again, use the orange bauer pike flash to the underside, the same way we did for the back section. Secure the whole tying point of the flash with super glue. Now things are about to get a little bit messy because it's time to start with the head. I'm using angel hair for the head. And you have to make sure that you use a type of angel hair that is durable, because there are some brands that you can pull apart with your hands. I'm using the angel hair from Dubai here that are some of the most durable I've come across. Cut 2 semi-thick bunches of ice chartreuse angel hair, one at about 6 to 7 centimeters and one at about 4 to 5 centimeters. Place these on the table in front of you. And do the same thing with the brown peacock angel hair that are going to be used for the underside of the head. Take the longest of the chartreuse angel hair and tape the ends to it. Then place it on top of the shank, again using roughly a 60-40 spread to it, and the longer section pointing backwards. Make sure it doesn't spread to the underside, so just add a couple of loose wrap on top of it, and tie it down with about 3 hard wraps of thread. Turn the fly over and repeat the whole thing with the brown angel hair. Make sure that the 2 bundles of angel hair meet halfway around the hook, so you get a clear top and bottom section of the head, and at the same time ensuring that there are no empty spaces on either side. Move the thread forward through the bunches of angel hair and fold both sections back. Now resist doing this. You want the angel hair to try and force itself forward to enable a head that pushes water. So just add a few thread wraps in front of it instead. Repeat the exact same thing with the shorter bunches of angel hair in front of the ones already tied in. Chartreuse on top, brown on bottom. Tie in, fold down and secure. And don't tie many wraps of thread forcing the head back here. Instead, just tie it off and comb the fly through once again.
Instead, add a lot of super glue to the tine point and also up into the material itself, while holding it back like this. It will help shape the head to a nice triangular shape. And use a large scissor and cut the head into a rough shape. You can cut more details later after the eyes are on. I like to use the big 14mm livin eyes from Flyman Company here for this big head. Just add a drop of super glue gel to each eye, then place it a few millimeters from the hook eye on each side of the head. And I like to press the head together like this from top to bottom. Then press the eyes on further to withhold the thickness of the head. Now you can remove the fly from the vise and do some final cutting. If you want to add stripes to the head, make sure you put a piece of paper underneath to prevent markers to add to your table. Just place the fly on there and try to space like 3 or 4 stripes on each side, making sure they meet on top of the fly. There you have it. Work well done.
Yep, there you have it. Teef Grillz, ladies and gentlemen, in the motor oil color. Great to be back with the tying video. Tomorrow evening I'm leaving for this year's trip to Åland. I think you remember last year's trip, right? Yeah, it was absolutely a trip of a lifetime. So until then, remember you can buy any 700 Teef swag at 700teef.redbubble.com. Go in there, buy your t-shirts, buy your stickers, buy your hoodies, buy your pillows, buy your coffee cups. And until next time, you know what to do. Yeah, do like the pikes do and stay sharp. Peace!